And one day, I'ma be living.
Look at the black male who still continues to stand on the corner every day as his primary means of income and revenue. Then you see the individual who works hard every day, who dropped out of college, but he works every day. Then you see the individual who went to college but can't get a job, so he's working at a fast food place, just something to hold him over until he finds something full time. And then you see the individual who has went to college, who has gone to college, who has a good job, who may be financially comfortable. Right? So you have these different layers, this staggered movement, if you will, towards, answering these new social, economic, technological, academic
Black men, well, men in general, but particularly black men, have to understand the value of wealth, or the building of wealth, because if you're going to play a role as a provider as relates to a wife and children, or just in community in general, then wealth is the vehicle that you play the role as provider. To be able to take care of a household, to pay rent, to have food on the table, to make sure that your family is provided the basic needs, requires generating income. The more income you have, the more you can do for your family and also at the community level.
Clothing. Made clothing stands for make all diversities equal.
Okay.
We have many different logos, but we started with the Made Clothing Hungry Man logo, and that logo, it represents how I wanted to be my own boss. And that's why, and that's another reason why when I went to college, I declared my major to be management. I'm a very people person. I'm a great team worker. But at the same time, I want to be able to run myself, to run my own company, to run my own station. I wanted to be able to say that this is mine. So I became an entrepreneur, and I wanted to do that because I wanted to be my own boss.
And from that parking lot, we were able then to get into real estate development, because on the same parking lot, we did our first building in DC, the Ellington Apartments at 13th and U Street. And that then opened the door for us to do other similar buildings in the same neighborhood, Ward 1, which, if anybody knows the history of DC, it's been through its ups and downs. And from an historical point of view, at the corner of U Street and 14th is where the rebellion broke out when Dr. King was assassinated. In fact, Stokely Carmichael was on that corner, along with Walter Fauntleroy that day when it broke out. And so when that happened, that rebellion happened, then Ward 1, at least large parts of it, but particularly the U Street corridor all the way up to Columbia Heights, was finished in terms of a business zone of prosperity, etc. So the Ellington, which is there today, thank God, at the corner of 13th and U, was that first building. And it was done at a time before Ward 1 and before U Street and Cardozo-Shaw and Columbia Heights and 14th Street, before those streets, in effect, recovered, right, from the damage that was done to them after the murder or the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King in 1968. So at the time we went to do the Ellington, nobody wanted to invest serious money on U Street or on 14th Street or at Columbia Heights Metro Station. We were the first. There was one woman before us, Dolores Johnson, another woman, descendant of slaves. She had done a building at 11th in U Street, a residential building, about 100 units, a little bit more. In fact, her son is a lawyer today in D.C. So we were the second, and we were blessed to continue on. After doing the Ellington, we went up to Columbia Heights and did 2 buildings up there. The last one we did was in Petworth, above the metro. Our firm has evolved to becoming more specifically involved in creating affordable housing within the Washington, D.C. metropolitan region. And we continue to look for the opportunity to be involved in being so-called the leaders in getting into working with neighborhoods and communities that are not popular today in terms of their location or the dynamics of their economies or local economies or neighborhood economies. We like to work in those situations to create or be part of the future growth of those communities. And one of those is east of the river right now. We have recently were part of a team of one of the partners, one of the firms that will be leading the redevelopment of the historic St. Elizabeth East.
I told my son that I will never give up, and one day, the world will run. One day, I'ma rename. One day, my city gonna fail.
Well, no question, entrepreneurship, for a number of reasons, is better than a job. Job is just for survival purposes, and no matter how much you're making, if you're working for somebody, it's not yours. I mean, there are entertainers and athletes that make millions of dollars, but the reality is, if they get fired, they no longer make that $1 million. So salary is not really a determinant of how much wealth you have. But if you own a business, if you own your own business or you own real estate, if you have a $1 million business, until you want to get rid of it, it's your $1 million business. No one can come in and take it away from you. So it's really a matter of ownership. When you work for somebody, you don't own anything, including your own labor. When you're self-employed, everything you do, you own. And for us as a community, we have to create more ownership. This is a capitalist system, and unless you have ownership, you really can't compete. I mean, just a simple fact of real estate. If you don't own real estate, you don't really benefit from the tax codes that exist. You don't reap the benefit of the taxes in terms of being able to protect your money. So everything in this society, as a capitalist system, is designed for ownership, and if you're not owning, then you're outside of the benefit. So I encourage everybody to look at entrepreneurship and property ownership as a real important priority, because you can't help yourself or your children until you own something.
I told my son that I will never give up, and one day, the world gonna run. One day, I'ma rename. One day, my city gonna fail me. I'ma make my mama proud. One day, I'ma tell Cheryl pack her bags, to go a map, point it out where you wanna live at. Cause when I make it, we all gonna eat. And I'ma keep working, I don't need no sleep. I do this.
You know, in the situation that I did, I went through the things that I went through, and I'm still here. Because as I look around, a lot of my quote-unquote sandbox, you know, your homies, your buddies you grew up with, they're not here. Some of them have passed away due to violent deaths. Some of them have, you know, fell to the penitentiary system and, you know, got 30 and 40, 50 years. But I'm still here. You know, and you know, it wasn't an easy transition for me, but I remember this, when I began to make that transition, I had one friend, right? This is my man, and I'll never forget him telling me this. He said, you know what, I'm not ready to make that switch with you yet. You know what I'm saying? But dudes like me need dudes like you out here. It never really made sense until one day he got locked up on a big conspiracy. And he called me. You know, this was in 2002. It's in 2002. He called me When he got locked, at the time he got locked up, he had a 6-month-old son who was hearing impaired and later became diagnosed with autism. But when he went in on a conspiracy where his whole neighborhood went in. And he called me and he said, you know what? He was like, I don't want you to send me no money. I don't need nothing from you. I just need you to look after my son. I don't have nobody to call to. I need you to just look after my son. And I told him, I said, I got you. And he did 12 years. He came home 2 years ago. And the first stop that he made when he came home was not the halfway house, was not even to see his mother. He came and saw me at work. And, you know, he gave me, you know, I ain't afraid to say, I'm a man, you know what I'm saying? But he gave me the best hug that I ever had in my life, and it was a hug of thanks. Like, thank you, you know what I'm saying, for holding what I hold dear to me as your own and not violating it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a deep-rooted principle involved in that, and that's called loyalty, which is distorted amongst our people. They got the wrong idea what loyalty is. Through his 12 years, he's been told that I was doing X, Y, and Z with the mother of his child. I'm riding around in his car. You know what I'm saying? By all these different people, but people didn't know that he wanted me to hold his car. People didn't know that when they was telling him, oh, he bringing your son over to jail to see somebody, they didn't know that I was bringing his son over to jail 3 days out of the week and standing in a long line at DC jail so his son can see his father. They didn't know I was coming to see him. They didn't know when they saw me in the mall with his son's mother that I was doing birthday shopping for his son to have a birthday party for him. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that loyalty, you know what I'm saying? Thank you for being loyalty. Thank you for being loyal. That's what that hug meant for me. And that's something that I was, you know, that's something that's taught in the old school. It's you know, it's shamefully, it's disregarded now. It's not as much emphasis put on it now, but anyway, he was the one who told me that, you know, dudes like me need dudes like you out here. And it made complete sense to me 10 years later. And that's what put me in this work, and that's what made me work for this population, work for my people. Because my people need me. Because my people was dealing with a lot of different levels of hurt, different levels of pain and struggle. They need a voice. You know, they need somebody that understands where they come from, that understands their situation, understand what drives their decision making. So that's what got me into this work. You know, it just felt like a
gentleman who went to college, who has a good job and is pretty financially comfortable. And what you notice with that gentleman is that he isn't doing too much to help out the gentleman who went to college but can't find a good job, so he's working, you know, an hourly wage job until he can find some steady employment. And then what you notice is that guy doesn't reach back to help the guy who didn't finish college, but he's working hard every day. And then that guy doesn't look back to help the guy who just didn't go to college and who is working every day because he decided to go through a trade school, right? So he has some type of formal training in education, yes. But he didn't decide to go to college. He went to trade school. So he has acquired a skill. And he went out and used the skill. But you don't see that gentleman getting help either. So, and you don't see this gentleman who has a skill helping folks that are standing on the corner day in and day out as their only source of revenue. The fact of the matter is we have to understand that we must work together if we ever want to remain current and in step with these new demands.
Drop it down to our younger siblings, our younger family members, and they can push it on more. But that's the plan, though. We're trying to build an empire with this. Like, we're not just, it started with clothing. That's what it starts with. But we're not just trying to leave it there. We're trying to bring it to more of, to the world, to the fact of making all diversity equal. So we're planning on in the future opening a maid recreation center, and maybe maid basketball small teams and different sports teams. And so we're not just trying to just do clothing. We're trying to do so many different things with the name. It's the name that we're focusing, the diversity, because that's what's going on in the world. All the things that's going wrong that's bad in the world, we know we don't have no equal. We're not equal. So
Given the circumstances that they're born into, what are the choices that they have? And so it becomes then a societal responsibility in terms of creating the best society so that people have a fair range of choices that could lead to not necessarily them being millionaires or having the biggest house on the hill, but so that they can make choices that they can lead a
Develop your own chess club, and you played very well, and you got on them youth at the library, because I used to go to come to Anacostia a lot. So I said, I went to Anacostia one time and I seen the master ran there. He was an African guy, I don't recall his name, but he was playing chess. He was playing 4 boards at one time, and that amazed me. So he left, and he left a board there, and the children still wanted to learn. That was at Francis Gregory Library. And I started teaching and instructing the students there or the youth there, and it just caught on. Then I came to Anacostia Library, which is my home base now. And so I enjoy the game so much, but what gives me great pleasure is to see when I teach a youth how to play the game of chess. And chess, they get to know the game and get to play the game where they're able to be competitive. And you should see the enthusiasm in them and when their ability to play the game, a full good game of chess. In saying that, the students that I've taught, all of them, the core of them, about 8 of them, all of them are honor roll students. All of them they're examples in the community. That's what chess can do for you, and that's why I like teaching it to them. And our chess club, Conscious Chess Moves, has won 10 first place team trophies at tournaments around the city. And they are an important part of that venture because they put themselves in there and learn the game, learn it to a level where they can play anybody. Because I used to tell them when they couldn't play, y'all, is a time gonna come where y'all be able to beat me. And they're going, about 4 of them that beat me. I'm talking about I gotta play them real strong now. I can't just lay back and just move the pieces. I gotta play them very serious. And another component of this, like Anacostia and Miss Davis, and another big component of this was Far Southeast Collaborative that will allow me grants to get chess pieces, trophies, and all that for tournaments that I gave. And with my core team, we went around the city to other people's chess tournaments. And we came out of there with the first place team trophy 10 times. And as I told them, chess is a game of strategy, it's a game of patience, it's a game that you're a gentleman in it, and you ain't gonna get hurt in the game because you're using your mind. You're not gonna, basketball, football is a possibility that you can get hurt. But using your mind is about growth and development. It's about, looking at a situation and see how you can get the best in it and come out a winner without hurting somebody. And after the game, before the game, you shake hands. It's a gentleman game. Sometimes a lot of people be ego tripping because they think they're masters and they're not. And sometimes when you teach a youth, he gets good and he think he can beat everybody. And he get kind of arrogant. You got to tell him it ain't about arrogance. It's just about playing the game. It's a game almost equivalent to life, where you take a lot of moves, and like a friend of mine, Eugene Brown's always say, you got to think before you move. Because if you don't think before you move, you might do something to get you in a precarious situation. And that's why you got to always think before you move, and you always got to be focused, you got to observe. Observation is a component of this game, because you gotta make moves and counter moves. You gotta see what your opponent doing, and the same thing in life.
The advantages of wealth building on an individual and a community level is that you have the ability to do more for yourself and others. Money is just energy. It You know, beyond just the physical part where there's paper or coins, it just represents, you know, buying power. It represents the ability to purchase things and purchase services. So when you have money, you just can make more things happen. And it starts with your feeling about money. You know, if you don't believe that you're supposed to have money, then you will never have money. Because money is connected to your energy. If you have negative energy around money, then money doesn't have any reason to connect to you.
That's in our mind. The myths that the white man has total control, or we can't get past the white man. We have a black man as a president. So we had, and he overcame a lot of challenges, and he is overcoming challenges now, even while he's in the White House. He's been the most disrespected president that society's ever seen, and yet he still is pushing. His hair is fully gray now, where it wasn't any gray before, but now it's fully gray. And so none of us have excuses as to why we can't, because can't can never be in our definition and how we live our life. And when you look at the word can't, when you look at the word couldn't, when you look at the word shouldn't, the only thing that's separating all of them is an apostrophe T. And what you have to do is remove that apostrophe T and say, I can overcome this obstacle. I should, and I can, and it's everything starts with the words that you speak out of your mouth, and then your beliefs. Because if you speak it, that means that you actually must believe it somewhere inside of you. Forget about what everybody's saying that you can't do. Forget about the myths that you've read. Forget about whatever you think that somebody before you went through. It's about what you have to go through to become successful. And it starts with you. It starts with you making the determination to come hell or high water. If you gotta ball your fist up and go through it, then go through it. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. The only thing that you have to prove something to is yourself. You have to be better, not better than the man next to you, but be better than the person that you were yesterday. You have to think great, you have to be great, because in being great and in thinking great, your actions will follow.